Oh, and Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate Christmas. It's Christmas Eve. And for those of you who don't, happy holidays. Now, I'd like you to consider giving yourself the gift this coming year of realizing that your tormentor is your greatest mentor. Now, that's not something I've coined. I learned that many years ago from Dr. Shelley Stockwell at a workshop that she gave. And she was quoting from Carlos Castaneda, who wrote the books about the Yaqui Indian sorcerer and shaman and spiritual teacher, Don Juan. And he was quoted as saying, "Your tormentor is your greatest mentor." Those things that bother us most offer us the chance of liberation. And what we've been talking about, it can help you get in touch with who you are as consciousness, as that which is beyond stress and suffering, to get in touch with that place in you that no matter what chaos is happening outside or what's irritating the body mind, you as consciousness can transcend that just by being able to remind your mind. So there's a few things that I do, and it goes like this. So somebody irritates you. Like, for example, when in practice with working with a couple, the wife was so irritated with her husband who acted like a know-it-all. So if she's at a party, he starts talking, she would get so tense and uptight about it. So I taught her that when your husband does that, simply silently within yourself, you're going to thank him. So this is really thanking your tormentor, okay? So I was coaching her to look at her husband, and when her husband began to be a know-it-all, she could go, stop, take a breath, and breathe in, say, thank you for reminding me of how I don't want to be as a person. Breathing out, thank you for reminding me how I do want to be. And take that breath and really let it go. That tension, that irritation, because he's going to get the consequences, the karma of his actions, and you can let him have that. Let people react to him however they want to. I was saying to her, differentiate yourself in a psychological sense, emotionally from him. Now, you could add in breathing in, thank you for reminding me how I don't want to be a know-it-all. Thank you for reminding me to be how I want to be, someone who's humble and listens to others and doesn't play that game. You can do that. You can fill in the specifics if you want, or you can just focus on how, thank you for reminding me how I don't want to be as a person, and then look at how he's being without saying anything else within yourself. And then breathing out, thank you for reminding me how I do want to be, and then have a kind of a visual of seeing yourself not being a know-it-all, being a good listener, and so forth. Now, the other thing that we've been working on is the idea that as consciousness, you and I are like this empty space of a room. That no matter what's happening in the room or what contents are in the room, of like the bookcase back here, the sign with the heart on it, the desk, whatever. And if, for example, my dog were to come in and jump up and down or start barking, that doesn't disturb the space of the room. So it may disturb my mind for a minute. It may disturb my body as I get tense. But I can take a breath, step back, and align myself with spirit, with consciousness. So I once heard a really good talk, and it's in my book, I mentioned this, with Rupert Spira talking to two A Course in Miracle teachers, Amy Torres and Bill Fried. And he was saying that true forgiveness occurs in the space between the judging thoughts. Where's your anger? Where's your resentment? Where's your lack of forgiveness for somebody who's irritated you, who's angered you, who hurt you? Where is that hurt, that anger, that resentment in the space between the judging thoughts? Because remember, judgment leads to anger, the judgment, the mind judging something, leads to your resentment. Those thoughts lead to the resentment, and therefore, without judgment, if we were living in a state of acceptance, there's no need for forgiveness, for letting go of resentment and tension and anger, because we haven't judged it. So, in other words, forgiveness is predicated upon having made a judgment first against the person and then removing that judgment. Now, that doesn't mean if you forgive, you condone their behavior either. It just means that you're not holding the burning log of resentment, as the Buddha talked about. That resentment is like picking up a burning log to throw it and just holding it and clutching it. It's burning you. So, keeping in mind that you can be reminded by the mentor, the tormentor, that as your mentor, as your teacher, that he's teaching you to practice forgiveness. And if you remember compassion, and I'm going to give you the steps you can use in action, in a situation, in a moment, put it all together. But let me say something about compassion. Now, compassion is realizing, I know in my heart that you, who are behaving badly, you would do differently, or would have done, because it's an action you're evaluating, you've judged. I know in my heart you would have done differently if you really could have done differently, but you could not, or you couldn't, and so you didn't. And why couldn't you? Because of your conditioning, because of your childhood conditioning and your cultural conditioning. So somebody who's being racist and judging another race, it's based on their early conditioning, what they saw their parents do, their culture, their subculture say and do toward that race. Okay, so in that sense, we can look at what our tormentor is doing in terms of being a mentor by reminding us to practice compassion and reminding us to practice forgiveness. And then lastly, reminding us that you and I, as consciousness, do not depend on anything external, seemingly external, because everything is appearing within us. We're not dependent on anything external to ourselves to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment, or to feel love, peace, and joy, and happiness. Our little surface self, that is, and not our deeper self, which is consciousness, but our surface self, the ego, feels dependent on people behaving certain ways. And I want you to be this way. I want this to be that way, and so forth. So this is a good reminder, too, from your tormentor as a mentor, that thank you for reminding me I'm not dependent on anything external to myself to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment, or to feel love, peace, joy, and happiness. And breathing out, I have everything I need within myself, my true self, my deeper self, to feel love, peace, joy, and happiness, or to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment. Whatever way you want to word it. Okay? So, let's take an example. So, as the woman who was angry and getting irritated with her husband, who was acting like a know-it-all, she could do something like this. He's behaving that way. Stop, breathing in. Thank you for reminding me of how I don't want to be as a person. Thank you for reminding me how I do want to be as a person. And then breathing in. Thank you for reminding me to practice compassion by remembering, I know in my heart you would do differently, or you would have done differently if you could have done differently, but you couldn't based on your conditioning, childhood and cultural, so you didn't. And then breathing in. Thank you for reminding me to practice forgiveness by remembering that I am the space between and beyond the judging thoughts leading to anger and resentment. And then breathing in, thank you for reminding me that I am not dependent. I, as consciousness, am not dependent on anything seemingly external to myself, to my body, mind, to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment, or to feel love, peace, joy, and happiness. Breathing out, because I have everything within myself to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment, or to feel love, peace, joy, and happiness. So, the 4 pieces are breathing into your mentor. As your mentor acts in a way, your tormentor, that is acting as a mentor in the sense that, thank you for reminding me of how I don't want to be as a person. Thank you for reminding me how I do want to be. Thank you for reminding me to practice compassion by remembering I know in my heart you would have done differently if you really could have, but you couldn't based on your conditioning, cultural, and childhood, so you didn't. And then breathing in, thank you for reminding me to practice forgiveness by remembering I am the vast space between and beyond the judging thoughts. And lastly, thank you for reminding me that I am not dependent, remembering that I am really not dependent on anything. And that means you behaving a certain way, differently. I'm not dependent on that to feel good, be at peace, and find fulfillment, or to feel love, peace, joy, and happiness. And so with that, let's give yourself the gift of using those irritations that you find in your life for liberation and returning you back to your true nature, to the paradise of your true nature. Because remember, in the story of the Garden of Eden, the kind of beautiful symbolism there is that Adam and Eve get thrown out of paradise, that is, out of feeling good and so forth, because they ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is basically the judgment tree. So when we judge, we suffer. The Course in Miracles is very big on this. When we judge, we suffer. And when we let go of that, we don't experience that frustration. Now, that doesn't mean you may not take action to try to resolve a situation, or maybe she could speak to her husband, the woman I gave the example to. But basically, you find your inner freedom from external circumstances. So let's consider giving yourself that gift and being able to see those things that irritate, those tormentors, whatever they are, situations and people, as your greatest mentor. Again, Merry Christmas to those celebrating Christmas, and Happy Holidays to the rest of you.